This is a topic that I've been talking about with myself recently because my channel is so huge that I find talking to me to be easier than the millions of people who are subscribed to me. And the topic is cost, spending, Sony, PlayStation, AAA games, what they're known for. And then Shuhei Yoshida, probably Mr. Sony himself, the one person that everyone there should listen to, is ignored. And essentially he's put on the indie project. He says live service isn't really something we should be chasing, but the problem was Microsoft came in and took the biggest piece of that live service pie, Call of Duty, away. The map packs first, the custom consoles, that revenue sharing deal between Activision and Sony before Activision was a Microsoft first party. That went away, and then Sony, they got a little bit scared and they said, we need live service, we need live service, we need a forever game. Curiously, that same sentiment is proven out by subscription services. Every month, how much money do you make based on the number of subscribers? And of course, everyone wants that, even if you don't and I don't. So what is Sony going to do? Well, take a look at all of these games that have been canceled. Think about the time. And of course, if you're an adult, you know time equals what? Money. Even if they didn't begin developing any of these games, which I'm sure they did, just showing up to work costs money for the company. Having people walk into a building and turn the lights on costs money. Sitting down in a room and discussing a project costs money. And after years and years of shifting what the company did best, now, curiously, they're going to try and find a way to shift back halfway through this generation. I keep saying it. You look at some of the biggest and best first-party studios that Sony has, and they've done zero this generation on the PlayStation 5. Zero. Sucker Punch has done not one single PlayStation 5 game yet this generation. They've remastered quite a few from the PlayStation 4 generation. Their first PlayStation 5 this generation game will be Ghost of Yotai 5.5 years into the generation. Naughty Dog, that did Jak 1, Jak 2, Jak 3, and Jak Combat Racing on the PlayStation 2 in that generation. The PlayStation 3 generation, what did they do? Uncharted 1, 2, and 3. What did they do this generation for the PlayStation 5 that wasn't a remaster of a PlayStation 4 game? Intergalactic, 5.5 years into the generation, maybe? And then, of course, you're going to get the remasters of those games on the PlayStation 6, because during the interview that Shuhei Yoshida gave, he essentially alluded to, you have to buy remasters and remakes so that we can make new first-party games that are, meeting the metric of our fan base. AAA, huge budgeted games. Most of the people I see that are in the PlayStation now, they don't even care if the game is good, gameplay-wise. They just want to see, it's got motion capture, great. Troy Baker, is he in it? Great. Are the graphics super high-end? Great. That all cost a tremendous amount of money, and when you're spending huge amounts of money, something has to give. Subscription services on the rise for Sony. Day and date PC absolutely going to happen. Lock it in. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I don't think I'm wrong. And I do believe that subscription service and that consistent monthly revenue is going to look better and better and better to the people at Sony. And you may even have a tiered service, PlayStation Plus Tier 1, day and date first party games. Sound crazy? Take a look at the list again. Take a look at the list and think about all of the money wasted this generation. Let's have a musical interlude to lighten things up.
I've been waiting for a game or two to come into my life. I've been waiting for something new that isn't live service game. They canceled 11. I've been waiting for a game or two to come into my life.
So I keep looking at this and I think to myself, how do they mitigate all these costs? What are they going to do? How could they possibly keep spending all this money to release one game at the tail end of a generation and then hope that you buy 20 million copies of it to break even and then remaster it into the next generation while they leapfrog into that generation and you wait another 5 or 6 years for maybe another single player IP that hopefully hits, because if it doesn't, then we're screwed. This cannot continue. They've got to mitigate cost much in the same way that Microsoft is doing. Or they got to lower their cost, which they're not going to do. You got to have a PlayStation 6. You're a PlayStation fan. It's got to be high end. Got to be $600, $700. Got to have an RTX 50, 60, 70, 69er. It's got to have it. Or else you won't consider it. First party games, they got to have every single graphical technique stuffed into them. And you ain't paying more than $70. You want more, but you don't want to pay for it. Something's got to give. Much in the same way, pay attention to this, because this is pretty profound, if I do say so myself. By the way, the hair, the robe, I mean, come on. Do you really need introductions and, fancy production value when you got this? You just don't. Pay attention. Game Pass trained an audience not to buy games. Say it with me. Game Pass trained an audience not to buy games. But PlayStation trained an audience to only buy huge budgeted AAA first-party games. That's a problem. It's a much bigger problem than the Game Pass issue, because the people purchasing Xboxes, they're fine with it. They're fine with it. They've given in to this idea that games are going to go everywhere. As long as Game Pass exists and you can subscribe to it and pay $20 while everybody else is paying $70, or you pay $20, you try it out, you like it so much, you purchase it, because you can still purchase games on Xbox. You get a discount if you're a member. Or you can just go through Amazon and buy it and get your physical copy. All that is still a thing on Xbox. But what is Sony going to do when that audience that refuses to buy anything but these huge budgeted AAA games, and by the way, even when those games come out, they're not buying them like they used to. Helldivers 2 outperformed Spider-Man 2. What does that tell Sony? Live service. It's not looking good. I am absolutely, positively positive that Sony is going to pivot hard this year at some point. It might be the middle of the year, it could be the end of the year, but they're going to do it because they have to. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let me know what you think about my song, my musical interlude to lighten the mood, and I'll see you in the next video.